Welcome to the Bob Show. Are we on? Welcome to the Bob Show here on KYCA. It's Scotty. You make it sound so exciting that that we're here. We were. You got something to say? Well, that's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we had quite a panel of all knowledge the last time we were talking about the tax increase. We actually we're hoping we would have Jim Thomas in here today from Aspire Sports to talk to us about pickleball and all that's going up on the up there on the old Sears building that's been completely renovated. And if you haven't been up there lately, it's incredible what they've done. And we got our something crossed, I guess, and Jim isn't here yet, or maybe he's not coming, or he couldn't make it. So what we're going to do is talk about whatever the Bob Show folks that are listening to the show or watching the show on a podcast want to talk about, and we've got lots to talk about. Give me a call. It's area code 928-541-1016, and we can talk about the tax increase that the city council's thinking about. We can talk about the current city council if you want to talk about those folks, and tell me what you think about that. I get a little frustrated. We were talking before the show. Get a little frustrated sometimes about some things that go on forever that needed to be addressed in a timely manner that haven't been addressed in a timely manner. And of course, my pet peeve is the water issues in the city of Prescott that have been kind of set aside and it have not been addressed for a period of years, actually a period of decades, and we're gonna get have to talk about that at some point in the future too. And my concern, of course, is it's going to happen on the heels of this 0.95% tax increase. Now they're going to vote to decide whether they want to go to 0.95, and Mark Woodfield in the meeting last week laid it all out that if you don't go to 0.95, you're not going to make it. And hoping that the 0.95 is enough to stem the tide, and that we're able to do all the things we need to do for our basic services in our community. And folks, we need to do it. So if anybody out there's got a better idea or something we can do, uh, rather than increase taxes, if there's something that you can think of that we can cut from government that we haven't thought of, give me a call. Area code 928-541-10. And let me see. I'm thinking about just some of the things that have happened recently, and that I'm a little concerned that our community is getting a little bit over their skis. So I'm wondering what you're thinking about it. So if you have a thought, give us a call, and we'll go from there. Huh, I got another card here from another guy from Aspire Sports. By the way, if you haven't been up there, it's quite the place. I've got all kinds of notes about it, and it's got all kinds of things for you to do. It's got workout equipment. It's got you can even there's even a place to sit and watch TV. There, they got they've got a um, pool hall kind of an area where you can play pool. They've got a cornhole place where you can play cornhole, which is kind of my thing. Just throw the bag at the hole and hope it goes in. That's the kind of thing. They've got a little bowling alley thing. It's not like a big bowling alley place, but it's there. They've got video games that you can play that are there. They've got a kitchen, and I made a note, and a pro shop there, but I made a note that they serve beer in the kitchen. So that got my attention. I thought, hey, wow, you know, this could be okay. And I was hoping that I could interview Jim and ask him a little bit about some of these things, and how much it costs and what to do and all those kind of things. But maybe he'll show up. Maybe he'll come in a little bit later. In the meantime, I was thinking that it might be fun for the people that are watching or listening to the Bob Show to call in and tell me about your pet peeves. I've been thinking about doing a show about pet peeves for a while, and I think, well, here we are. Here it is right now. We can do that. And I was also thinking about funny things that have happened to you when you travel. And I've got a couple of those too, and I could go on pet peeves for forever because we all have them, and one of them's getting from my house to this radio station on Highway 69, and having people cutting in and speeding up and slowing down, and I always think that when you move to Prescott, that it's kind of a responsibility that you assimilate to how we are rather than us trying to change how you are when you get here. And part of that is, drive with courtesy, slow down a little bit. We're all wanting to get where we're going, but we don't want to do it at the risk of causing somebody else to have an issue and crash or something. So, folks, it's not getting better, and just because there are more people here doesn't mean it needs to get worse. We just need to just all kind of, kumbaya when we're out in the road. So, it would be good if we all did that. I got a funny trip thing that happened to us, and I can't remember exactly where we were, but we had taken a kind of a subway train thing. We were on a cruise. We took a subway thing to a particular point, got off the subway, and we're walking to, and I can't remember if it was the Coliseum or it was something big in Europe. And we walked, and we finally got there. And we had a thing lined up so we could, right after lunch, we could go and see the inside of the Coliseum. And that worked out okay. And that tired us out even more. And so we went to that. We did all that, and then when we walked back to get back on the subway to get back to the spot where we had to pick up a bus to go back to the ship, we got there and nobody knew which subway we needed to get on. How do we get back to where we're going? And so yours truly walks over to this huge map, and I'm looking at it. There is no English in this place at all. Nothing. Don't recognize anything. So I'm standing there and I'm staring at the map of the subway, and I'm thinking, all right, now be logical about this. We got to get back, so we got to do this. This has got to happen. So I'm looking at it, and our son-in-law, he came over, and he started staring at it too. I'm thinking, well, two dumb guys are standing here staring at this map, and we're looking, and it was like something out of the Da Vinci Code. We looked at it, and it hit us both at the same time. The subway was a series of routes that were in the shape of a big X. And the place we wanted to go was where the two crossed, where the X crossed. And I thought to myself, it doesn't matter what train we got on. They all end up in the spot we're going to, where the X crosses, right? So it was like out of the movies, the family's all standing over there apprehensive. What are we going to do? And we both start walking really fast. Get on the next train. Get on the next train. And so we did, and we got to the spot, and then it gets even more interesting. We get to the spot, and there's nobody there at the place where the bus is going to come, right? There's just a couple people milling around. And so I go over there, and I'm looking around going, oh my gosh. So I go up to the guy to buy tickets to get the bus to take us back, and he said, well, you're lucky. This is the last bus. This is the last bus that's going to the dock to take people back over there. I said, wow. Oh. And a heartwarming thing, kind of an interesting thing happened to us, and Wendy and I were talking about this before I left to come to the show. There was a group, a family of black people there that were milling around with us, and we all stepped aside and let them get on the bus, and we got on the bus, and everybody went back to the thing. And when we got off the bus on the other side, one of the guys from the other family stopped us. He says, nobody has ever done that for us in our lives before? And I looked at, yeah, Scotty's looking at me now. And I looked at him and I said, really? And he says, yeah. He said, your courtesy, your family's courtesy was really appreciated. And man, that kind of pumps you up. You feel like, wow, we did the right thing here. But the fact that that even happened, was just kind of an eye opener. After the thing with the X's, and we're just lucky to be here, and we just barely made it back too. I mean, it would have been bad news. We'd have been stuck where we were. I think we were in Spain. I can't remember, or Rome. I think we were in Italy. So, gosh. Anyway, if you got one of those kind of stories, give us a call. I've got more pet peeves too. I'll think of them during the break. So, and we've got a Walmart comment coming. So 541-1016. We'll take a quick break here. We'll be right back. Are we back? All right, we're back here on, on the Bob Show, and we've got a caller. And let's go right to Rita on line 1. Rita, are you there?
I am here, Mr. Bob. It's such a pleasure to be on your show. I feel grateful. You remember me?
I'm trying to.
You used to interview me. I have a business in Chino Valley, and anyways, I've been lucky to be on the show a few times.
Yeah, now that I see your last name.
The reason I'm calling is my husband and I used to go to Italy every year on business, so we were really lucky. We used to go a lot, and I didn't know the language, but except for like a few things that you had to know. But what we found, and the train stations were kind of confusing. I mean, you really had to study those maps, so I know how you felt. But what we found out, if you ask for directions, most of their people speak other languages. So my husband speaks Spanish, and so all we would do was look around and find somebody else who also spoke Spanish. And between the two of them, they could figure out, get directions to where we were going.
We were kind of in a panic. I think that's why we didn't even think.
When you go back, if you know another language, they're multilingual, so they can generally help you out. We're not real good about being multilingual here in the States, but anyway, that's just a little tip.
Yeah, okay, good. Thank you.
So, Mr. Bob, it was fun listening to your show. I will hang up and let you go forth.
All right, thank you. Thanks for calling, Rita.
Great day.
You too. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Now, Scott, did you say you had a Walmart story? Are you?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Actually, I live in kind of northwest Prescott. And for those of us that generally shop at the Gail Gardner Walmart,
yeah,
they've been remodeling.
Oh.
And they've been there for 3 weeks, maybe a month. And They have just been tearing that store apart. Every day you go in there and a section has been moved to another area in the store. And then you come back 2 days later and that whole section is back on the original place. And it's just been a real zoo. And it looks like they finally finished. So I just am kind of happy. I didn't see anything wrong with the old Walmart, but I mean they redid the flooring, the walls, the outside, all new shelving, redid just everything from the pharmacy all the way to the other side of the store and the grocery department. Quite a difference.
Yep, yep. Everything's, if there's one thing for sure, everything always keeps changing, I guess. So that's true. I got another travel story for you here. We were in Ireland. I think we were in Ireland, and we got off. We were on another cruise. We got off the ship, and we went to a modern market place, like a bunch of different stores and stuff. And we were walking through the thing, and we were looking for particular kind of candy. We wanted a particular kind of candy, and we found it. And I saw this little metal sign that said antique firehouse, kind of a museum or something. So we went in there. I convinced everybody we should go see what this is. We walk in there, and there are two elderly gentlemen in there, and they were so delighted to see us because this is off the beaten path completely. And we walk in there, and they just entertained us with all kinds of information. It was a very unique little firehouse, long since been closed. Like it's a little museum now. They have their valued dog stuffed in a plexiglass container thing there, which they're very proud of. And I ended up giving them a donation or something. I can't remember, but it was just so much fun to be there. And we got around the whole place, and we were getting ready to leave, and they said, we've got this 5-minute video to show you about what it was like during World War II here in this place in Ireland. I think we were in Cork. So we sat down. When we sat down, I'm talking maybe 5 chairs, So we sat down and watched it. And about 2/3 of the way through the show, one of the old guys said, "Look, me, the back row, third one over from the left." And there he was as a young man, the guy standing next to me in the show, and he was so proud of being in that little clip that there he was. And he made a comment that the Germans thought that this was a valuable port for whatever reason. And he said, that shows you how stupid they were. He said, because we knew nothing about anything, but they bombed us anyway. And they had pictures of where the bombs landed around this area. And I thought to myself, only when you're traveling would you see something like this or come up with something like this. And I've got to tell you too, folks, we were just talking about during the break. If you travel and you've got kids, take them along, because they will surprise you with things they learned and things they remember. Years after, 20 years later, 15 years later, they'll bring up something that they saw while they were on that trip, and it's money well spent for their education and rounding them out a little bit. And Andrew, it's true. That's what would happen. So that's one story. I've got another one, but we've got Lynn on line 1. So Lynn, nope, Lynn's gone. Okay, I'll give Scotty's waving his hands. Lynn's not there. So, okay, I got, let me see another story. We went to see the Leaning Tower of Pisa. And we walked and we walked again. Walked and walked and walked and walked, and we finally got to the place. It is completely commercialized. And it's worth going to see, actually, but there's little booze everywhere, and everybody's hawking this and that and the next thing and everything. And the way this works when we're traveling with the family is our grown daughter now is the caboose. When we're walking along, the whole family walks in a line, and one follows the other, like ants or something. And she's always the caboose because the guy who does the Bob show sometimes wanders off. And so she's always concerned about where's dad, you know. So anyway, we're walking along, and I see a guy standing on the side over here, and he's eating ice cream on a little cup, and he's eating ice cream, and I just notice him. And then about a block later, maybe 2 blocks later, I see him again, and he's standing there and he's eating ice cream, except now the cup's empty. He's pretending like he's eating ice cream. And I look at my daughter, and I look back at my daughter, and she says to me, "I've already seen him. Just keep walking." And so we were all kind of, it was, where you're in a foreign country, what do you know, right? So uh, nothing happened, but it was just one of those moments where you get a little bit of a concern that this isn't a good situation, and holy mackerel, what's going on here? I got one more. I've got to talk about that. We got 2 minutes to the break. Okay, I've got to wait for this one. You're going to love this story. It happened on a train in France, and it's something that I know two people that I have in my head right now, which I'll tell you after the break. Will never forget it. It was something that happened on a train that they will never forget it, and I still would love to have somebody give us a call and talk about a pet peeve or talk about something that happened to you while you're traveling somewhere, because these things are just kind of fun. And when nothing bad happens and you get through it, then everything, it makes it fun to know. I've also got something here that I've been waiting to read, which is called the title of the story is Heavens to Murgatroyd. And I'm gonna read this. I know reading stuff on the radio is probably not a real good thing to do, but I think you'll get a big kick out of it, and it may cause a few phone calls to come in also, because we've all had these situations come up through our lives that we can talk about. So we got another 30 seconds to go. So I'll start the thing to tease you a little bit. We're in France, and I know it sounds like we're world travelers or something, but we're in France, and we're getting ready to spend a week in a villa kind of place. And it's really kind of fancy dancy kind of thing, and it was a wonderful way to spend. I think it was, I don't know, 5 days, 6 days, something like that, and all kinds of really interesting things happened there too. So stick with us. We'll bring up the story right after these messages. We'll be right back. Are we back? All right, we're back on the Bob Show. Thanks for staying with us. We're kind of spitballing it today and talking about all kinds of things. If you have a pet peeve or you have a funny story that's happened to you on a trip somewhere, please give us a call because it's always kind of fun. It took me a minute, Rita, to remember who you are, but now I remember completely, and it was good that you called in, and I appreciate the call. Jeez, you get to a certain age and things move kind of slower than they used to. I don't know what the deal is. Okay, here comes another travel story that you are gonna just be delighted with. I think you never know. We were traveling and we got. I can't remember where we were at first, but we're getting on this train and we're going to go to this place. We're going to stay for about a week, and we were traveling with some people who one of the guys that was with us was born in France. So this was in France, and so he knew French, and so we're getting on a train, and we're on another cruise, and we've got all this luggage that we're hauling along. And the people that are helping us with the luggage, and they were nice and everything, were grumbling about a bunch of Americans getting on this, on the train, and so he let them know that he was from France and that he spoke French and he knew what they were saying about us, which immediately changed their persona. With they were, so everything's fine, and they were kind of, but this train had a guy coming along, tickets please, and he stamped them and that whole thing was going on, and so we get settled in, and I'm sitting in one seat, and Tori, our granddaughter, and one of her friends, Savvy, was sitting next to her, and we're just kind of sitting there, and we're going along like you go along on a train, and dink 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 dink. We're just going along, and there everybody's about half asleep, kind of sitting there waiting. About I don't know, hour and a half, 2 hour ride. So we're just going along, and there was a very very elderly lady who was sitting across the aisle and a couple of the seats further down. And she got up to do whatever she was going to do, and she was struggling. She had a cane. She was struggling, and finally she got into the aisle on the train and getting jostled around a little bit. She was facing away from us, and her pants fell off all the way down to the floor. Her pants fell off. And the poor thing, it wasn't like obscene or anything, but it was just kind of one of those moments in time. And I'm sitting there, and my first reaction was to look at the girls. And I looked at the girls, and now they got to be 15 years old, 14, 15 years old, something like that, right? And I look at them. They're both awake, and their eyes are just about to bug out of their heads because they're looking at this poor lady. And she's struggling to get her pants pulled back up. Bless her heart, and all this is going on, and I kind of started to laugh, chuckle to myself, not because of what was happening with the poor lady, but with what was happening with these two girls. And I thought to myself at that moment in time, they will never forget this. They will live to be 100, and they will always remember we're on a train in France, which is a completely unique situation to begin with for some guy who lives in Prescott, Arizona to begin with, and here we are, and we get to see this and everything. That was the trip. We went to we stayed in a hotel at a block off of the Champs-Élysées, and the arch, the big what do they call it, the Arch de Triomphe right there. It was like maybe 2 blocks away, so we walk over the Champs-Élysées, and yours truly is I'm doing two things. I'm picturing the Germans marching down the Champs-Élysées with all their pomp and circumstances after they took over Paris at that point in time, trying to figure out if the road was just as wide now as it was then, and I'm trying to look at light fixtures on the road, and just kind of standing there doing all that, and we were in a room in this hotel, and I just kept looking and wondering. I wonder if Nazis stayed here And that's what's going through my head. I wonder if there was ever some big shot Nazi in this room at some point in time, because those buildings are, they're still there. There's, nothing's really changed except they've been improved, but the bathroom was different, unique, and these things were just, you could tell that was everything was kind of old. Another thing that happened to us on that trip was we got in a cab, and we had to get from where we were to this hotel, and the Notre Dame had just burned. Remember when it burned and the cathedral, the whole thing collapsed on itself and all that? Well, that had just happened, and so we were looking at that horrible thing. And the thing that there were two things that happened on that little trip in the taxi. The stories you've seen of people screaming at each other, like in Vacation, with Chevy Chase, and, that actually happened. We had our guy honking his horn, and got one arm out of the car, yelling at this guy, and you get out of my way. Except it's all in French, and I'm sure it was mostly swear words the guy was, but the thing um, that upset me when we were on this thing is when you're driving by on this particular road we're on, and Notre Dame's right there, the cathedral's right there. There are a bunch of shacks set up selling tourist junk, and also they're selling pornography. And while you go by, you can see what they're selling, because the traffic's horrible and you're not going very fast, and this guy's all hyped up anyway, and he's swerving around. So I'm Josh, but I thought it's just wrong. You're looking at this fabulous Notre Dame cathedral, and you see these things right there along the road, because they know tourists are going to come along, walk along here to go look at the cathedral, or the church, I should say, the church, and it just kind of rub you the wrong way, right? It just wasn't right, and kind of weird. We when we were staying at this place, we got to go to a wine place, and got to test all these wines that they were making right there, which was kind of neat. And we also got to go to a medieval village that's there that they've just kind of kept, and it's up on a hill, and everything's smaller, not small. But here again, there was a church, Catholic church, that was just kind of the center of this whole place. And I wandered into a side door, because I have a tendency to wander around when I'm, and so I walked in the side door, and the church was not open, but it was you could tell it was still active, because there were candles lit for various reasons and stuff, like they do. And I lit a candle. It's one of those moments. And on the outside, I was standing there, and I was thinking, I know why they built this thing here, because you can see for quite a ways out in one direction. So if the enemy was coming, you could see them. And sure enough, I'm standing there looking at that, and I turn around. There's a little plaque that says, this is where the guards stood and helped watch, make sure there weren't any enemies coming. And I thought to myself, wow, who gets to experience that? That's kind of cool. So anyway, all right, we got to take a break. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll be right back after these messages. And we're back here on the Bob Show. We're just reminiscing about stuff we've seen and done on various trips, and was hoping somebody would call in instead of listening to me yabber along. You might have your own story. 5411016 if you want to call in. I've got one other story that I'll talk about. Hopefully it. Maybe I won't talk about that. I'll move on to something else. Maybe I'll get back to that near the end of the show. It has to do with going to Normandy and hoping everybody, if you get a chance to go, that you would. All right, I'm going to forego that for the time being. It's just kind of got to me. All right, this is a thing I saw, and I don't know where I saw it. Probably on Facebook or someplace, but I got a laugh out of it, and I think maybe you will too. So bear with me. If you think of something while I'm talking, you might want to give us a call because this is kind of fun. This is called Whispers of Words, and I think I don't know who to give credit for this. It's something off of Facebook, but it's called Heaven to Murgatroyd. The other day, a not so elderly, I'd say 75-year-old lady, said something to her son about driving a jalopy, and he looked at her and said, "What the heck is a jalopy?" And he had never heard of the word jalopy. She knew she was old, but not that old, right? She's 75. Well, I hope you are hunky-dory when you read this and chuckle. All right, here we go. About a month ago, I illuminated some old expressions that have become obsolete because of the inexorable march of technology. These phrases include, "Don't touch that dial," "carbon copy," "you sound like a broken record," and "hung out to dry." Back in the olden days, we had a lot of moxie. We'd put on our best bib and tucker to straighten up and fly right. I mean, heavens to Betsy, gee willikers, jumping Jehoshaphat. How many people have heard that? Scotty's already laughing now. Holy moly, we were in like Flynn and living the life of Riley. And even a regular guy couldn't accuse us of being a knucklehead, a nincompoop, or a pill. Not all that, not with all, for all the tea in China. Remember that one? Not for all the tea in China. Back in the old days, life used to be swell. But when was the last time anything was swell? Swell has gone the way of last time anything was swell. Swell has gone the way of beehives, page boys, and the DA, of spats, knickers, fedoras, poodle skirts, saddle shoes, and pedal pushers. Do you remember pedal pushers? My mom used to wear pedal pushers, and I never even thought about it, and I didn't even know what the word, didn't even know what they were back then. She said, "Oh, my aching back." Kilroy was here. That came out of World War II, Kilroy. And, the little guy with his nose sitting over, looking over with his fingers hanging out. You've seen that one? Okay, yeah. But he isn't anymore. We wake up from that. Surely has been just a short nap. And before we can say, well, it's a monkey's uncle, or this is a fine kettle of fish, we discovered that the words we grew up with, the words that seemed omnipresent as oxygen, have vanished with scarcely a notice from our tongues and our pens and our keyboards. Poof go the words of our youth. Where have all the great phrases gone? Long gone. Pshaw, the milkman did it. Hey, it's your nickel. I can't remember saying that. Don't forget to pull the chain. Knee high to a grasshopper. Fiddlesticks. Going like 60. Going like 60 now is no big deal if you're on Highway 69. I was complaining about one of my pet peeves this one. By the way, before I finish this, the raised part of Highway 69 was an effort back in the day. When the guy who's doing the Bob Show right now was on Prescott City Council, we had a series of head-on collisions on Highway 69. I said, what are we going to do about it? What are we going to do about it? And so Bob Bell and I contacted ADOT and said, you guys got to do something. We've got a problem here. And the result, after many years of them telling us they were going to do this, that, and the next thing, they ended up building that raised part that's on Highway 69 now, to keep people from crossing over on the other end and having head-on collisions. And for the most part, it's worked because the thing's what? 1.5 feet, 2 feet high, so you're not going to be able to go over there. You're going to smash into it instead of going on the other side of the road. And it seemed like a good fix. It's barren. It looks kind of not doesn't look all that great, but it's there, and there's weeds growing out of it. And I call Mary Mallory, our county board of supervisors, said, "Hey, can you get somebody over there to pull the weeds on that thing? It looks terrible. This is the entryway to Prescott, Arizona, and I don't want it to look like that. And nobody wants it to look like that. Why can't we maintain it and pull the weeds on this street?" And Mary totally agreed, and she made some calls, and sure enough, somebody from the county, not the state, I think somebody from the county went over and pulled the weeds. But it's one of those projects, and with all the rain we got earlier this year, we're going to have that problem. It's going to be out there in spades. And if somebody get on it now and keep it controlled, the problem wouldn't become a pet peeve. And, and so I just thought I'd mention it. And if anybody's working for the county or the state, or Mary, if you're listening, start making those phone calls, because the weeds are coming back and it needs to be cleaned up and stayed cleaned up. And you're talking to a guy who was involved with getting that done, and I'd like to see it maintained. So anyway, okay, we got one more break. Let's go ahead and take our last break of the show, and we'll be right back after these messages, and I'll finish this thing I'm reading here real quick. And we're back here on the Bob Show. Thanks for sticking with us. It's been kind of a hodgepodge today, but we thank you for listening. We know you got lots of things to do, and I hope you've been somewhat entertained by our show today. It's been kind of anyway. To finish up this these phrases that we were talking about here, we're going like 60, and I'll see you in the funny papers. Don't take any wooden nickels. Wake up and smell the roses. That one's still around, I think. It turns out there are more of these lost words in the expression than Carter has liver pills. And of course, Carter's little liver pills don't exist anymore. They're not around. And it leaves us to wonder where Superman will find a phone booth. See you later, alligator. After a while, crocodile. Okie dokie. And all those phrases, are kind of fun to look back on. And I know some of the folks that are listening to the show right now are at least my age and remember some of those things, and how we all just kind of said them in a silly way when we were growing up, and boy, life just scooting by us right now. And I think I've got it together to talk a little bit about Normandy, and if Andrew doesn't look at me, I think I'll be okay if I don't. And one of the things that happens when you go there is there are when you walk to the I can't do that, to the cemetery. Nah, it's not going to happen. You should go. If you get a chance, you should go. Okay. I was thinking about, let's see, what's going to happen. I've got an interesting guy coming in, not in June, not the first week in June, but the first Tuesday in June, but the first Tuesday in July or August, I'm going to have a gentleman named Christopher Vaughn coming in. And of all things, he owns a barber shop called Salty's. And he calls himself the American Barbershop. And I was in there, and this guy is a patriot. And I don't know him very well. And I'm going to be in there tomorrow and set up the time. He's either coming in July or August to the Bob Show, and we'll have a good conversation about what it's like to be a, kind of a good American, that you're doing the right thing just because it's the right thing. You're not doing it because somebody's watching you or anything else. And it's going to be a good show. Back to Normandy. When you walk into the cemetery, there are walls. You have to walk by some walls. They're curved walls, and there's like a little open doorway that you walk in. There's not a door; it's just an open space. And one of the things that I noticed were that on these curved walls there were names of POW or people that were MIA, missing in action during World War II. And every once in a while there would be not an asterisk, but a Rosetta after their name on this wall. And I went up to somebody and I asked them about that, and they said, well, we're still discovering folks that died during that period of time, and when we find them, we identify who they are through DNA. Now we can do that through DNA, and we notify the families and everything, and they get a Rosetta that their bodies have been found. And I thought, wow, people don't know that so much because you see where the boats landed and everything, and you don't get to see this part of it so much. This cemetery is maintained by the United States. It's a moving thing. And you should go. Anyway, I'm sorry. Let me think. I am just sorry that we didn't get Jim. Wasn't able to show up today because they've got a kids program that I saw in publication, and they've got a thing where they coach a number of sports, and they do things for the young kids around town, and it's a good thing because the more things we have for the folks around, for the kids around Prescott, the better, because it's good to keep them busy. The community out in Prescott Valley seems to having people all over the place, all kinds of things going on out there. And the theater right next to Findlay Toyota Center is a place for kids to go, and they can perform in plays and everything, and it's a safe place to go. And they call it the Main Street Theater now, and they had something else they call it the Main Street Theater now. And Clyde's still out there, and he's still doing his thing with the kids, and it's a little niche thing that when the community provides this for somebody, you can bring your parents in there, and the kid can get up on that stage, and it has an impact on them that's just, you just don't know. It's like we were talking about traveling earlier, that if you travel with your kids and take your kids, they will surprise you by what they've learned and what they see on a trip. And even if it's shocking, like the lady on the train, it's still a memory that will stay with them forever. And it's worth the money to do it. And I would just recommend it highly if you get a chance. All right, we got about 30 seconds left. Looking forward to future Bob shows. Lucky you only have to put up with me once a month, and it's been a pleasure talking to you. I'm glad Rita called in, and next time we have pet peeves, maybe you got a whole list of them, and we can go over them, including them potholes, like you were talking about, Scotty. And potholes is always a good thing to talk about. Keep those folks over there at City on their toes. Goodbye to JP and the professor, and we'll see you in a couple of months.